We've all heard the whispers, right? Felt that kind of digital hum, seen the headlines. Just imagine a world where machines aren't just, helping us out, but they're performing virtually every task, from the most complex coding to, well, even creative stuff. What happens then? To human work, to our economy, maybe even our purpose. So today, we're doing a deep dive. We've got this stack of really powerful sources, cutting edge articles, deep research, expert analysis, and they all paint this picture, sometimes a bit unsettling, of a huge economic revolution. It's accelerating fast, driven almost entirely by artificial intelligence. Our mission. Let's try to cut through the noise, pull out the biggest insights, understand the shifts already happening, and really explore what might be, I don't know, an inevitable solution for our future. Okay, let's unpack this throughout.
Yeah, and it's definitely more than just a transition. It feels like a total re-architecture of our world. These sources, they're not just talking about the next tech wave like PCs or the internet. This is fundamental, reshaping society, reshaping the economy, right down to the foundations. The implications are just staggering. Touches every single part of how we live, how we work, how we organize ourselves. It's a story that really demands our attention.
And right at the heart of it, these sources keep pointing to something, well, it sounds almost like science fiction, the global race for superintelligence. Doesn't it sound like something from a movie? But apparently, the biggest companies, even whole countries, are in this massive sprint to get there. So, what's the real difference the sources are making between the AI we have now and this superintelligence? Is it just smarter AI, or is it something else entirely, something that really changes the game?
That's a really crucial question. And the distinction, it's vital. Our materials define superintelligence, not just as AI that's, better at specific things, playing chess, driving a car.
Mm.
No, this is AI that doesn't just match, but actually surpasses human abilities
That's all.
across every single conceivable domain.
Mm.
Knowledge, skill, creativity, you name it.
Mhm.
So it's not just an engineer tweaking an algorithm. It's a fundamental shift where, and this is a quote from One Piece, no job will remain safe from automation.
Oh, job. Wow.
And what's fascinating is how fast this is moving from theory to, well, to tangible reality.
Hmm.
Think about professional drivers, for instance. For ages, navigating messy, unpredictable streets seemed like a uniquely human skill, right?
Yeah.
Secure. Yet now we're seeing these incredibly sophisticated autonomous driving systems. They're proving that, look, given enough data, enough processing power, even that complex physical task, it can be mastered by AI.
That example really hits home, the scale of it. And it leads to something else the sources highlight, a really striking shift. For decades, maybe generations, if you wanted a stable job, a guaranteed career, what did everyone say? Go into computer science. It was the golden ticket, right? The ultimate safe bet. The logic made sense. Tech was growing, so the people building it would always be needed. But here's where it gets really interesting, according to this research. Even that field, the very engine room of the digital revolution, is having its own automation moment from the inside out.
Precisely, yeah. The research we've looked at, it details how modern AI, especially with these large language models and machine learning breakthroughs, it's becoming incredibly good at tasks that, until very recently, were purely human. We're talking writing complex software code, debugging it meticulously, even designing whole system architectures just from a high-level description.
So the creators are being automated by their own creation.
In a way, yes, or at least their roles are being significantly augmented, potentially automated down the line. And it's not just programming either. I mean, you look at accounting professionals, AI can now do complex financial calculations, run audits, pull out deep analytical insights faster and often more accurately than humans. Or think about creative fields. We're seeing AI generating original art, composing music, writing pretty decent articles and marketing copy. Even those highly specialized knowledge workers, consultants, legal researchers, medical diagnosticians, their expertise is being replicated, sometimes even surpassed, by machine learning systems that can just churn through enormous amounts of data in seconds.
Okay, so we're basically seeing the brain jobs automated before the brawn jobs. That feels incredibly counterintuitive, doesn't it? I always pictured, robots doing the physical stuff first, like Rosie the robot cleaning the house, not an AI managing my stock portfolio. Why is it happening this way around? Why the intellectual, the creative jobs, often the first ones really feeling the heat?
That's a central paradox that sources really dig into, and it's a critical insight. The explanation seems to boil down to a couple of key factors. First, many intellectual jobs just don't need direct physical interaction with the messy real world. Think about a software engineer versus, say, a plumber.
Right. One's coding in an office, the other's under a sink.
Exactly. The plumber deals with unpredictable physical spaces, weird pipe fittings, actual leaky water, constant unique challenges, digital work, It happens in controlled virtual environments. Variables are easier to manage, predict, manipulate, perfect for AI. Second, there's the nature of language itself, especially structured languages. Programming languages, for example, follow very precise logical rules. They're systematic. This makes them perfect training data for AI. It's much easier for an AI to learn code than to learn, say, how to navigate a cluttered construction site reliably. The digital realm is just cleaner, more predictable for AI to operate in.
That makes a lot of sense. The digital versus physical divide and how structured code is compared to the real world's chaos. But okay, if the brawn, the physical stuff is harder, how do the sources suggest we'll eventually automate manual labor? It's still going to happen, presumably. What are the paths they see for automating the physical world?
They generally point to two main pathways, both pretty transformative. The first is kind of what you'd expect, creating highly advanced humanoid robots.
Yeah.
Robots that can interact with the physical world, much like humans do. Now, this is a huge engineering challenge, obviously. Needs incredible robotics, complex sensors, super fast AI for real-time decisions.
The Boston Dynamics kind of stuff we see online.
Exactly like that, but continuously progressing. You see companies like Boston Dynamics, Tesla, lots of startups. They're pushing the boundaries all the time. Each generation gets better dexterity, better balance, better awareness of its surroundings. They're literally building machines that can walk, run, climb stairs, pick things up with increasing finesse, trying to mimic us in environments built for us.
So the Rosie the Robot idea is still alive and well, just way more advanced than we imagined back then. Okay, what's the second path? Is that different? Not just building better robots.
The second path is maybe even more radical because it involves rethinking automation from the ground up. Instead of making a robot act like a human in a human-designed environment, you make the environment itself the robot, or at least fully automated. You redesign the whole system so human-like interaction isn't even needed.
How does that work in practice?
Well, take driving. Instead of a humanoid robot sitting in the driver's seat of a normal car, you make the car itself the robot. All the intelligence, all the control is built right into the vehicle. That's autonomous driving. Or think about kitchens. Instead of a robot chef trying to use human tools in a standard kitchen, you might develop totally automated food prep systems. Ingredients go in one end, finished meals come out the other. Designed for robots, not humans. Same for construction. Maybe instead of robot bricklayers using trowels, you get automated systems that build using completely new methods, like large-scale 3D printing or prefab modular assembly. It's about optimizing the whole process for automation, not just jamming a robot into an existing human process.
Wow. Two very different futures, but both leading to more automation. Now, you might think, given how huge these changes sound, maybe we could just tap the brakes, legislate a slower transition, maybe ease into it more gently. But the sources we're looking at seem pretty convinced that's, well, highly unlikely. They say the forces driving this are just too strong to slow down easily. Why is that? What makes slowing down so difficult?
That's a really critical point when you connect it to the bigger geopolitical picture. The sources really emphasize the intense competition between nations and also between giant corporations. Countries see this AI race as, well, almost a zero-sum game for global influence. Like, whoever gets the breakthrough first gets a massive, maybe permanent advantage.
A bit like the space race, maybe, but with even higher stakes.
Exactly, but potentially much, much bigger stakes. Economic dominance, military superiority, cultural influence, soft power, everything. The incentives are just incredibly powerful. The first countries, the first companies to really crack advanced AI or AGI, they gain potentially unparalleled advantages. Huge boosts in productivity, next-generation defense capabilities, setting global standards. This creates this almost irresistible pressure to accelerate development basically at all costs. Rather than pause or slow down, even if there are potential social downsides. Nobody wants to be left behind in this race. That urgency tends to override concerns about a managed, gentle transition.
So it's driven by fear of falling behind as much as the desire to lead. National survival, almost. Okay, that urgency makes sense. But as this race speeds up, the sources also point to this looming shadow, a fundamental contradiction baked into our current economic system. Something that could unravel everything, they ask. If AI takes most of the jobs or significantly impacts most people's ability to earn, who's going to have the money, the purchasing power to buy all the stuff these super efficient automated systems are making? It feels like capitalism might be building the tools to destroy its own customer base.
That's precisely the fundamental contradiction they describe. It's a core tension. Capitalism, as we know it, runs on consumers, people with disposable income who buy goods and services. Yet the very technology boosting productivity and profits, AI and automation, threatens to eliminate the source of that income
Without jobs.
for huge numbers of people. The sources predict that if this just runs its course without major intervention, it's going to lead to what they call catastrophic adjustments to find some new balance.
Catastrophic adjustments. That sounds pretty severe.
It does. And catastrophic isn't just hyperbole here. They're hinting at massive instability. We're not talking about a small recession. We're talking potential for widespread unemployment, extreme wealth concentration, and a possible collapse in consumer demand unless a completely new way to distribute wealth and purchasing power emerges.
Are they specific about what catastrophic adjustments might look like? Beyond just economic models, is it societal breakdown or...
The interpretations vary a bit, but the
Yeah.
common theme is deep instability. Some sources definitely lean towards periods of significant social unrest, political upheaval, as people struggle with joblessness and insecurity. Others might envision governments being forced into pretty extreme interventions just to keep things stable, maybe massive public works, emergency income schemes far beyond current welfare. But the underlying consensus is clear. The current system, where income is primarily tied to labor, just can't hold if labor becomes largely redundant for most people. It's not if the system breaks or changes, it's how messy that break will be.
Okay, so if we're heading into this future where AI and robots can do almost anything, and our traditional economic engine is kind of sputtering because of it, how do we sustain ourselves? Economically speaking, this is the massive question, right? What do the sources ultimately point towards as a practical way forward, considering all these pressures?
This really is the essential question, isn't it? And the sources are actually remarkably aligned on the likely answer. They suggest the question isn't really whether some form of universal basic income UBI becomes necessary. It's more about what specific form it will take and maybe how fast we'll need to implement it.
UBI, Universal Basic Income. Just to recap, that's giving everyone a regular, unconditional payment to cover basic needs, right? Employed or not.
Exactly. Providing all citizens with enough to live on regularly, no strings attached regarding employment status. Now, this idea has been kicked around for decades, often seen as idealistic, maybe socialist. But the potential arrival of advanced AI, especially artificial general intelligence or AGI, it transforms UBI according to these analyses. It shifts it from being just an aspirational policy goal into potentially a practical, maybe even unavoidable necessity. Just to maintain social stability might become the core mechanism to prevent society from, well, unraveling.
That's a huge shift in thinking, UBI moving from nice idea to essential infrastructure. But, I mean, for many listeners, UBI probably sounds either like a utopia or maybe the opposite, full of practical problems, economic risks. Do the sources grapple with those downsides, the complexities of actually doing UBI on a massive, maybe global scale, even if it is needed?
Oh, absolutely. They don't present UBI as some kind of magic wand. Far from it. While they converge on its likely necessity, they definitely discuss the big challenges, like how do you actually fund it, especially if traditional income taxes from labor are shrinking dramatically. What about inflation? If everyone gets money but production doesn't keep pace, or if it's managed poorly. And then there are the deeper questions. Potential impacts on people's motivation to work or contribute or learn. What about human purpose? And just the sheer logistical nightmare of setting up and running such a system fairly and efficiently. They stress that UBI isn't just about cash handouts. It'd have to be part of a much bigger societal rethink. Carefully designed to, maintain social cohesion, maybe encourage new forms of contribution, and avoid creating a kind of universal dependency trap. So, yes, necessary doesn't mean simple or easy.
That's a really important clarification. So, assuming this plays out as predicted, we could genuinely be looking at capitalism's greatest triumph, creating these unbelievably productive technologies, actually forcing the adoption of policies like UBI, which have traditionally been seen as more socialist. There's a huge irony there, isn't there? Almost poetic.
There really is. The sources explicitly call it an ironic convergence. It's quite striking. The private sector's relentless drive for profit and efficiency through automation, a core capitalist impulse, might inadvertently end up achieving goals often associated with socialist ideals. Things like drastically reduced working hours, maybe even decoupling basic survival from the need to hold down a traditional job, providing guaranteed economic security for everyone. It's a powerful reminder of how economic systems aren't fixed. They have to adapt to profound technological shifts.
Like the Industrial Revolution forced changes.
Exactly. Just like the Industrial Revolution demanded entirely new ways of organizing labor, creating social safety nets, building public education systems to cope with the shift from agrarian to industrial society. This AI revolution will likely require an equally fundamental rethink: how we distribute the immense wealth generated by AI, how we organize society when human labor isn't the main engine. It shows how technology can really blur those old ideological battle lines.
So, wrapping this all together, what does it mean for us, for you listening? How do we navigate this potentially biggest transition in human history? How do we manage it without it becoming, well, a disaster?
Well, the sources, while very clear-eyed about the scale of the challenge, they don't necessarily end on a purely pessimistic note. They tend to frame it as an opportunity, albeit a daunting one. Instead of just passively waiting for technological unemployment to hit like a tidal wave, we have the chance, maybe the obligation, to proactively design the systems that come next. Systems that can harness AI's incredible productivity, but distribute the benefits broadly, ensuring widespread prosperity, not just for a few. And this preparation, it's not just about policy debates around UBI funding mechanisms. It involves tackling those deeper, almost philosophical questions. What is human purpose if work isn't central? How should we organize ourselves? How do we distribute the fruits of this technological leap fairly? How do we even define value anymore? The next few decades are going to be a profound test of our collective wisdom, our foresight, our ability to adapt. Managing this shift from human labor driving value to AI driving value to arguably one of the most significant challenges and opportunities humanity has ever faced. It really is about consciously shaping our future.
Wow, what a journey in this deep dive. We've gone from that almost sci-fi race for superintelligence through the weird paradox of brain jobs being automated first, the geopolitical pressures making it hard to slow down, all the way to universal basic income potentially becoming a practical necessity to solve capitalism's big contradiction. It really paints a picture of a future that feels incredibly close, incredibly complex, a world truly on the verge of redefining, well, almost everything.
Absolutely. And how we navigate this, how we choose to manage this transition, that's going to determine the outcome. Will it lead to unprecedented human flourishing, a new age of creativity and freedom enabled by technology? Or could it lead to devastating social disruption, deepening inequality, perhaps conflict? What role do you think we, collectively and individually, play in shaping which path we take? Is it about just adapting passively or actively designing the future we want?
A huge question to ponder. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into AI, automation, and the future of work. We really hope this conversation has sparked some thought, maybe challenged some assumptions about the future, and perhaps your own place within it. Until next time.